Toyota's strategy here in the United States, and you could say in North America, including Canada and Mexico, it's changing seemingly every day. But this exclusive piece that I have for you guys really affects the two biggest plants here in the United States for Toyota. And you could even say Kentucky is arguably the biggest single Toyota plant in the world. Yes, Toyota City in the Aichi prefecture in Japan is huge. They also have a big plant in Indiana. And so we're going to talk about these two plants, Toyota's strategy changing in these plants massively, and which models from the Grand Highlander to the RAV4 to the Camry and many new models, including potentially a Highlander next gen. We're going to talk about that today, but we have to go back in time first. And before we do, if you guys are excited for this news, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. I don't always have the first scoop on news. Sometimes I get it from Japan, or Japan says it first, or sometimes it's like Automotive News or Reuters. But this, guys, I've looked around. I can't find anyone else sharing this news yet. So I think I'm the first, and I'm excited for that. Every once in a while, I'll get a first because my sources are really close to the matter, and I have multiple sources on this. So you can take this news that I have for you guys to the bank. This is 100% happening, and Toyota is staying fluid with their production in order to serve the market the best, the customer needs, but also to adjust with the current political situation as well. We're going back in time here. May of 2023, so we're 2 years ago. Toyota ramps up commitment to electrification with BEV production and additional battery plant investment. The all-new three-row BEV SUV will be assembled in Toyota's Kentucky plant starting in 2025. Well, we had an update on that last fall. I think I was actually in Japan with Honda at the time. And Toyota said, hey, we're delaying this vehicle to mid-2026. Well, it could actually be delayed further than that based off of everything that's going on in the market, in the industry, and in the world. Then fast forward a year later, April 2024, now we're going to in the Indiana plant where they make the TX for Lexus, the Grand Highlander, the Sienna, the Highlander. Things are changing massively there. I'm excited to tell you. They're investing over $1 billion for an all-new BEV. And like the new three-row BEV that was going to be made in Kentucky, they're saying, hey, we have also an all-new three-row BEV SUV. So Toyota, when they announced this, I'm just like, wait. At the time, I was like, just a year ago, they announced a three-row BEV, and now they have a second three-row BEV. I don't understand how there would be a market for two three-row BEVs. Guys, in the current state of the market right now, you have the Ioniq 9 three-row BEV just launched. I haven't driven it yet. I've heard great things about it. And there's also the Kia EV9, which really blew me away last year when I reviewed it. It was one of the most impressive EVs I've driven. But the demand for three-row EVs is really bad in the United States. The Ioniq 9 just launched last month, and Hyundai immediately had to incentivize the vehicle massively. All right. The EV9 sales completely just disappeared because Kia is losing money on that vehicle. So is it going to be Toyota's fate as well to lose money on three-row EVs? Well, they're adjusting things massively to avoid losing a lot of money, in my opinion. All right. So they have this new battery plant, which started producing battery modules in April 2025. And they're actually, to my understanding, not producing the battery packs at site. All right. They're just producing the individual cells because we go to Automotive News. This is not my exclusive hit I have for you guys. We're getting there. I have to brief you. We'll get there. Toyota's adding battery pack lines to two Ontario assembly plants to pave the way for the new RAV4. The RAV4 is made in two separate plants in Ontario. The North plant in Cambridge and then the West plant in Woodstock. The RAV4 is made in both of them. They sell about $275,000 per year there. But what they're doing, and they're doing this in Kentucky, and they're doing this in Indiana as well, they're building individual battery lines and in some cases an individual plant to build these battery packs. Okay, the modules, the cells go into the modules go into different sizes of packs. All right, so you have different sizes for BEVs, PHEVs, and hybrids. Now, the hybrids use a different type of cell. It's a smaller cell, maybe not that much bigger than like your phone. Okay, so a bunch of like phone-sized small lithium-ion battery packs for the hybrids. What the plug-in hybrids use something like, I guess like a VHS tape, if you guys remember that. So the plug-in hybrids and the BEVs use different cells, but all, regardless of the smaller cell or the bigger cell, they're all assembled now at the plants that assemble the vehicle to stay fluid with the situation, to stay fluid with the demand. Yes, I made a spreadsheet for today. I made a spreadsheet to help you guys and guide you. All right. I got an update back in May. And I already shared this information with you guys, but in case you don't remember, in fact, it's hard for me to remember all this. The Lexus ES, which was slated to leave in August of this year, got pushed back, delayed. The new ES won't be, well, it's coming from Japan, but it won't be coming until January or February of 2026. Watch my walk around of the new ES. That vehicle is now leaving in December. So there's very little downtime between current generation ES and next gen ES. That assembly line that is going to stop producing the Lexus ES in Kentucky's assembly line 3 is going to build Camrys there. All right. And because of the tariff situation, the RAV4 is staying in Kentucky. The plans were actually to make all the new RAV4s in Canada and in Japan and bring them to the United States. But because of the tariff situation, the RAV4 is staying in Kentucky. And then yesterday, which this is kind of fun because it happened on my 10th anniversary with my wife, our wedding anniversary, I got this big scoop from different sources familiar with the matter, not only in Kentucky, but also in Indiana, their two biggest assembly plants in the United States. They dropped a memo updating, again, Toyota. And so I'm going to read some of this memo to you guys, and I'll be able to make more sense of it on the spreadsheet as well. So Toyota wants to improve their efficiencies with manufacturing and also better serve the current market and the customer current demand. So Toyota is essentially strategically changing production across their plants in Kentucky and Indiana. That 3-row EV that was supposed to be built in Indiana, they're moving it. It's now going to be built in Kentucky. And Indiana is not going to be building any BEVs for the time being or in the near future. They eventually will. It's inevitable in my opinion. But as of now, there's no 3-row BEV SUV going into Indiana like they announced in 2024. So let's just get into the spreadsheet and let's focus on Indiana here. They have a West plant and an East plant, okay? The West plant currently builds a Grand Highlander and TX, okay? And the East plant currently builds the Highlander and Sienna. So the Grand Highlander and TX will continue to be built in the West plant. That is until 2027, all right? The West plant, from my understanding, is going to drop the Grand Highlander, and the Grand Highlander in 2027 is going to move to the East plant assembly line. And the reason is apparently in that West plant, and again, this is not official from Toyota's memo. This is actually a little bit of a rumor. So take this part with a grain of salt, but 100% happening, the 3-row EV that was planned to be in Indiana, that's going to Kentucky. All right. But what I'm hearing behind the scenes is that the Grand Highlander is getting moved to the other plant, the East plant in Indiana. The Lexus TX will be built on the West plant still alongside a new Lexus hybrid. From what I'm hearing, it's a hybrid, not a BEV. And therefore, it could also be a plug-in hybrid. But I'm hearing that it is a Lexus. And that makes sense to have the two Lexus models built in the same assembly line. You want your best manufacturing employees, I guess you could say, your most experienced, your most skilled employees working on the Lexus models. So maybe the West plant becomes kind of a Lexus hub here in the United States. But I don't know anything about this vehicle. I don't know if it's a sedan. I don't know if it's a crossover. All I know, Lexus hybrid. So we'll see what happens with that vehicle. But that should be coming in 2027. Honestly, if I had to take a stab, what would it be? Well, it depends on like the tariff situation. What if they bring the RX or NX or both of them to be built in Indiana? All right, that's a possibility. I have no idea what it is. The Lexus UX needs a replacement. Maybe they have a subcompact crossover replacement, but the NX is already pretty small. All right, I feel like the NX is the perfect size. And the UX is way too cramped and way too expensive for what it offers. Let me know what you think Lexus needs to build alongside the TX in Princeton. All right. Not only do we have, let's go back to this. Not only do we have Ontario adding assembly lines at 2 different plants. Okay. The memo says that there is a battery assembly plant being added in Princeton. I don't have a timeline when this battery assembly plant is going to be finished, but it is being built in Princeton to assemble these battery cells into packs, all right, for different types of vehicles, from hybrids to plug-in hybrids to BEVs, all right. And BEV is again being pushed back in Indiana because that 3-row is moving to Kentucky. So let's go to Kentucky here. What is going on there? Well, the Camry hybrid is on assembly line 1, but that is going to be replaced because the new 3-row BEV, I'm just going to go call it the Highlander EV, is going in there as well. This is 100% happening probably by the end of 2026, maybe early 2027 if it gets pushed back, the Highlander EV on assembly line 1. Assembly line 2, they're keeping the RAV4 and Camry on that to my understanding. I believe they share it currently. All right, assembly line 3, again, rest in peace, ES, made in the United States. It's gone. They're adding a battery pack assembly line in Kentucky. All right, Camry's going to where the ES used to be built and will stay there. Remember, because not only is there going to be a Highlander 3-row EV, there's going to be the 3-row EV that is coming from Indiana that was never produced there, was planned to be produced in Indiana, but they just moved it to Kentucky instead. But I'm also hearing that we're going to have plug-in hybrids of these vehicles. Now, this is a little bit of hearsay behind the scenes. Toyota hasn't announced plug-in hybrid for this Highlander EV, but it would make sense because the market is not asking really for 3-row EVs. As I just mentioned, Hyundai and Kia have amazing 3-row EVs, and they're having to put so much money into moving them that it's not worth, like, the juice isn't worth the squeeze sort of thing. All right, so Toyota needs to be flexible here, and this is why having a battery assembly line, or in the case of Indiana, an assembly plant, is next level strategy. All right, depending on the political demands, all right, whatever the government is asking from these companies, they have to churn out either more BEVs or less BEVs, or more PHEVs or less PHEVs. But they also are able to cater, more importantly, to the customers. What the market is demanding. Is the market demanding more hybrids, more plug-in hybrids, more BEVs? When you have a battery assembly line at each plant, all right, where they build these hybrids or electrified vehicles, you can switch on the fly. And that's a great thing about Toyota's hybrids. Their hybrid system is exactly the same from, if you look at a RAV4 hybrid and a RAV4 plug-in hybrid, most of the components are the same. Yes, you have to add a charger, but the batteries change, obviously, but the engine, the motors, the transmission, that's all the same. Okay, so they don't have to change a whole lot. They just mainly change the battery and add the plug to the plug-in hybrids, and it's a done deal. And you can produce more or less because they're getting all these batteries from that North Carolina battery plant, which are churning out battery cells right now for the new RAV4, which is going fully hybrid this year. So the Highlander, this is my hot take. All right, take it with a grain of salt. So the Highlander was supposed to be EV only, but you got to keep in mind Toyota has, and I think I have an article here, and so Toyota is not going to have a skateboard software-defined completely anyways, battery electric platform in the near future. Maybe 10 years from now, Lexus will with the LFZC coming in 2027, but not right now, okay? So all of these vehicles, essentially including the Camry, can be switched to a BEV using the same platform, okay? So they're getting the most out of their investment in the K platform / ETNGA platform. So the big news today, as I start to wind this down, is that Indiana and Kentucky, and you can even say in Canada at the Cambridge and Woodstock plants are adding battery lines. They're becoming extremely flexible on the fly, all right, to meet market demands, to meet consumer demands, to meet governmental demands or the lack thereof, depending on what kind of political situation's going on. Both 3-row BEV SUVs are going to be built in Kentucky. Now, what's also a bit crazy is that supposedly Toyota's going to be building these 3-row BEVs in Kentucky, not only for Toyota branded models, but for Lexus as well. So you have the TZ for example, to be the Lexus version of the Highlander EV. And then you also have whatever Subaru is going to name this 3-row EV. Subaru will have their own too. All right. That will all be built on assembly line 1 in Georgetown. But that's just one 3-row EV. So apparently there's another 3-row EV SUV being built in Georgetown now. All right. And I wouldn't be surprised if both of those also have plug-in hybrid alternatives, or maybe even hybrid alternatives, depending on the market and the demands for the ZEV states. All right. And the ZEV states might not have any power anymore to set their own emission standards, all right, because of the political situation going on. All right, so Toyota is in this position that's extraordinarily flexible. If you look at like Mazda, we just talked about yesterday, Mazda's in a tough position because they have such little United States vehicle production. All right. And they're even using Toyota's hybrid right now in the CX-50. Over 50% of their vehicles are being brought into the United States from Japan, for example, for Mazda. All right. So they're not in a good position. You need me to open something? Goldfish? Here you go, Gigi girl. Please don't spill them. Now, Honda in Marysville, Ohio, when I toured that plant earlier this year, the Accord, the TLX, the Integra, they're all built there. But they're also having a battery assembly line and a new battery plant essentially worked into their current Marysville, Ohio. So they're trying to be a little bit more flexible, but Toyota has an edge here in flexibility because Honda is using gigacasting for their BEVs for an all new BEV platform with, completely software defined. Honda's BEVs are essentially a full generation in theory past where Toyota is in the next few years. All right. The closest Toyota technology that we'll have to Honda's EV technology, in my opinion, is going to be the Lexus LFZC with the gigacasting, next-gen batteries, that sort of thing, all right? I feel like Honda's going to be there starting at the end of this year when the RSX EV comes out for Acura. But like I said, the EV sales are actually declining in the United States right now. And Honda, with that BEV platform that they have, is not flexible at all. It's BEV or nothing, okay? It's BEV, and then you have... it's completely unrelated to their hybrids, their next-gen hybrids, and their current platforms, their global platform and their large platform that they have for all their other models. So completely unrelated, where Toyota is able to convert a Camry to a full EV, or their Highlander EV that was supposed to be full EV. It looks like there's going to be some hybrid versions of it as well, including plug-in hybrid. All right, so Toyota has much more flexibility to adapt and adjust to the market because of their flexible ETNGA platform, which they've made a lot better. When it launched, it was kind of a joke. It charged still doesn't charge that fast with the new BZ, for example, but it's so much more efficient than it was. The software is a lot better. The new wave of EVs using this ETNGA platform, which is a modification of the K platform, using what Toyota already essentially had. They just reworked what they currently had to make really good EVs. All right. They can still get a lot better. They need faster charging. That's probably the biggest thing holding them back right now. But hey, Hyundai has super fast charging on their eGMP platform, and some of their vehicle, and Kia, some of their EVs aren't doing that well right now either. So they're going to be making more Grand Highlanders, probably more Siennas, because the Highlander is leaving the Princeton plant and it's going to Kentucky. So they'll be able to make more Grand Highlanders, more Siennas. The Lexus TX will share the West plant with the new Lexus, more than likely. Again, that's just what I'm hearing. But it's probably going to happen, all right? Because the Grand Highlander is supposed to switch it all the way over to the East plant. In a nutshell, Toyota's set up for success. Now, I don't have exact timelines of the changes happening in the other plants in North America. All right. Supposedly, there are BEVs that are going to come out of Canada for Lexus and Toyota. All right. We'll see. Time will tell. In Mississippi, I don't know what they're doing down there with the Corolla sedan, but we need more Corolla options, I would say. Just start making the wagon stateside. I'd be so happy. Corolla Cross, this plant's still underutilized in the Mazda Toyota manufacturing in Alabama. Okay. In Texas, where they build the Tundra and Sequoia, plug-in hybrids will eventually come for those vehicles, but probably 2028, something like that would be my guess. And where they build the Tacoma in Mexico and Guanajuato and the Baja plants, yeah, that truck is also supposed to get plug-in hybrids. I just don't know exactly when. So massive changes coming for Toyota in North America. And they're set up probably better than any company in the United States to succeed with all the crazy stuff going on in the market right now. Toyota needs to keep things affordable. Hopefully they can come out with more affordable models because car prices keep going up and affordability keeps coming down. We're seeing the highest number of 84-month loans we've ever seen in the history of the car market. And that's not a good sign. People are stretching their budgets as much as possible to finance a new car for 7 years. That's bad. You should never do that. It's a bad idea unless you have it for like 0% interest or something like that. And their flexibility with electrification is just on a level that no one else can compete with right now, in my opinion. All right. Especially since they have that battery plant in North Carolina. And don't forget, they're also getting batteries from an LG plant. I think that's in Ohio or Michigan or something. They have another source of batteries when there is not quite enough to feed these 3-row EVs. That's essentially going to be bottlenecked by their own batteries, so they have to use LG's batteries on the 3-row EV SUVs. I don't know if it's all of them or just some of them. Time will tell, but wow, I could talk about this for a long time. I think it's fascinating. Hopefully I didn't put you guys to sleep. I think it's significant information because I really geek out over production. I geek out over where the vehicles are coming from. And I geek out when there's massive changes like this behind the scenes. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. RAV4 will still be built in the United States. Highlander is coming. A new Highlander is coming between 2026 and 2027. And more than likely, we'll offer a plug-in hybrid as well. We'll have a new Lexus coming. Could be in 2027. That's what I'm hearing, alongside the TX. And we'll have much higher volumes of the Grand Highlander and the Sienna hitting the market, as the Highlander no longer is going to be in Indiana to steal production from them. And that will be going to Assembly Line 1, alongside of a bunch of other brands, Subaru, Lexus, 2 different EVs there, 3-row EVs. I don't understand it. If you guys can riddle me why Toyota needs 2 different 3-row BEVs, I just don't. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Are you going to have like a mega one, like a Suburban or something, and then have a smaller one like a Highlander? Maybe one of them is the Century. Maybe that's it, right? Remember the Century, the Toyota Century that could enter into our market? I know it's a plug-in hybrid right now, but that would make sense for it to be like a GV90 sort of competitor. And being fully battery electric, that would make sense too. All right, so maybe that's what it is. You have something like a Highlander 3-row EV, and then you have a Century 3-row EV. I don't know. I'll see you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.